Welcome to BattleBeat. This is a 5-person free-for-all D&D hybrid battle royale piece of garbage that you're gonna love. The rules are simple. Everyone's gonna be fighting for their lives, and last person standing wins. If you're at all confused, I'm gonna have a video out soon explaining more in-depth rules, so stay tuned for that. And with all that, let's meet our fighters. First off, we have Wick. He is a large, intimidating man with an acting background. He has been in anything and everything movie-wise, specializes in illusions and tricks that he finds very funny. Next, we have Grimes, a slimy, weird, gross child that is not fit for fighting, but showed up anyway, so go him. Then we have Euclea. She is here and is ready for a takedown, specializes in making things move on their own, and can use anything as a weapon. Next is Deskull, a fine historian, and plays a little too close to the part. You'll see what I mean here soon. And lastly, Andy Toulon. And Billy the Destroyer. They're a two-part person. The one with the epithet is the glove on his hand. Try not to think about it. Now let's begin the fight. Normally, right now, I would be showing you the entire fight that happened, start to finish, in just a long VOD. However, the video got super corrupted and is unusable. So, I'm going to be narrating over bits and pieces that were salvageable and give you the intense rundown of everything that happened. So, let's get ready to start. The beginning of the fight went smoothly. As everybody walked around, they realized they were in some weird 3-story grocery store hybrid, and just kind of ignored that and went on with the fight. Wick and Grimes started out on the bottom floor and took a minute to run into each other, but both set up their own traps, with Wick turning into several different clones and Grimes laying down multiple fields of slime behind him wherever he moved. Deskull, however, who also started on the middle floor, had a different idea. He started right next to a set of stairs that he decided to go up, and was met with an interesting sight. As he got to the top floor, Andy fell from the sky and landed awfully incoherent on the middle of the floor. They each waited for each other to make the first move, and ended up in this weird, stalling, staring contest for a while. As this continued, everybody else also began to shift and move, until eventually Deskull decided to make the first move and walk forward, right into Andy's trap that he had secretly laid there. Now, this would have made Deskull very angry, and it did. So as any rational, military-garbed man, he had a dune buggy drop from the sky right behind Andy and decided to run him over with it. This resulted in him pushing Andy back down the staircase and into Euclea, who was at the bottom. This resulted in this humongous crash into a stack of giant crates located at the bottom of these stairs. Everybody took a mean amount of damage, and resulted in a lot of people using a lot of very weird reactions as well. Euclea used a move to make pain move on its own and share the damage she took with Deskull, while Deskull, in result to taking this damage, used his reaction to drop a smoke bomb and try and get out of there. Sadly, it was the end of his turn and he had no movement left, so he decided to chill out. Next on the turn order was Andy, who also was very scared of the man who just ran him over with a giant dune buggy and ran away. He sat back and set up a teleporting device, which will come very, very handy later. As this huge mess of damage was happening on the second floor, meanwhile, on the bottom floor, Wick and Grimes finally run into each other, and Grimes is witnessing this whole hallway full of Wicks, and Wick is realizing a very gross little lad. Wick performed some smooth moves to avoid some damage, but ended up getting hit a little bit, and Grimes had a very terrible time discerning who was the real Wick, and ended up getting bullied a little bit. Grimes took a good amount of damage from this altercation. As Wick was going to attack Grimes again, he rolled to hit, and got a critical hit, which is when you roll a 20 on a 20-sided die. And Grimes was already pretty low, about half health from everything that already had happened. And Wick also rolled max damage, making Grimes at 2 HP. Alive, but not looking good. After Grimes had taken all of this damage, they ran away, like a normal child, and tried their hardest to make it back up the stairs. Wick, whose turn won't come till very much later, has a very unique response to this. I'll give you a hint, it involves making more clones. Also on the middle floor, some more fights have broken out. Euclid and Andy try to run away while Deskel pops out of the smoke in different attire now, this more barbaric army outfit, as his epithet, War, allows him to change into different armors, giving him different abilities of the time period of the armor he's wearing. He uses this to grab Euclid by the throat and slam her into the ground about 3 times. And Andy, who was scared of the giant man choke slamming a person 3 times in a row, decided to hide behind some boxes and wait it out. And Euclid had this amazing idea, you're never going to believe this, of just punching back, and did an amazing amount of damage too, along with the several little knickknacks that Euclid has acquired over the time. But Deskel took a lot of damage, and in result needed to get out fast, but Andy was in the direction of the other stairs and might have something tricky, and Euclid was blocking the way to the downstairs, so he, this wonderful, wonderful man, had the amazing idea of running through a wall on a 2nd floor building, and didn't think that he would run through a wall that led outside. And after taking all that damage from Euclid, took more as he fell from a story high. This resulted him being outside the mART and just kind of chilling, not wanting to die because he is at very low health. So he chills out for a little bit. This is also the time where it's Wick's turn again and decides to create more and more clones and prepare himself for the next fight. Grimes is running away now, and he doesn't want to take on an easy target. This is Wick we're talking about, so he's just kind of keeping an eye out for all the corners. Grimes, however, has a very special move where his ooze, which is also his epithet, is healing-based. But it needs to latch on to everybody. It needs to take life from others first. So Grimes needs to deal damage to everyone. Grimes has already hit Wick once, and has slime set around everywhere, which Deskel has already ran into. So the only 2 left are Andy and Euclid. So Grimes runs upstairs with this amazing plan, and hits Andy with a ranged attack, and has a slime fiend run straight through Euclid, dealing damage instantly. And though it's not a lot of health, Grimes is healthy for the first time in a while, and uses this to their advantage to run back down the stairs and prepare another showdown with Wick. Back on the 2nd floor, Euclid and Andy are starting a fight again. They're going at it and dealing damage to each other, and it's getting pretty tight up here and very dangerous. Euclid has taken a lot of damage, and Andy, with the help of Billy the Destroyer, is dodging a lot of it. So Euclid has one last idea. A secret, forbidden move, outlawed by BattleBeat users everywhere, but no, this is where Euclid shines. Euclid uses their epithet Automatize to remove the skeleton from their skin and have it move automatically, letting Euclid have double the amount of moves this turn. This backfires extremely hard, as Andy dodges one attack as a Euclid rolls too low, and also uses a reaction to negate all of the damage of the 2nd attack that hits. A counter effect of the move Euclid just used is that she takes more damage than she has health the next turn, with a very small chance of taking less. We'll get back to Euclid the next turn. Maybe. Back on the bottom floor, Deskel is running out of ideas. He stayed outside the door and got cheap-shotted by Wick, who realized he was on the other side, and decided to go out like a man. He walks outside in a samurai garb, another one of his war attributes, and decides to take on Wick. The hard part, though, is that there is 2 Wicks that he can see. And he looks at one and hits. It's the wrong Wick, as Wick's epithet Starstruck activates and emits a large flash and electric shock and deals damage to Deskal. He's already low, and just trying to do anything useful hits the other Wick, but it's also a clone and takes more damage, as the real Wick, just halfway down the hallway, down the bend, laughs very, very loudly. Deskal now waits, at low health, and nothing else really to do, just hoping he'll get anything cool off this next turn. And speaking of Wick, he comes around the corner all casual, knowing full and well what he just did was absolutely epic. He takes a look at Deskal and pops a few other clones instantly. And with one final punch to the face, Deskal goes down and is defeated and out of the combat. This is the last we will ever see of this very awkward historian. Wick, being very, very impressed with himself and still at a relatively cool HP amount, decides to take a walk and runs down the hallway to see Grimes, who had just come back a little more healed up, and running out of moves decides to pop a few more clones and get in the back behind all of them, hoping that will fool the poor child. Grimes now casually walks forward and thinks very hard. If they hit him, they will get damaged. And if they do nothing, they don't take damage. Grimes sets up some slime around him and waits for something to happen. Euclid at this point has told Andy that she will most likely die in the next turn, and it would be better for him to go off and try and deal with an actual threat. Andy understands this, though Billy the Destroyer wants to snap Euclid's neck, but Andy's the one with legs, so they go downstairs. They run into Grimes, who is staring down the hallway, and Andy is out of sight of Wick at the point, so they don't really know what they're looking at, and Andy decides to shoot Grimes. No other targets in sight. Seemed like the best idea. Grimes also hit him in the last turn, so I mean, it makes sense. Grimes takes more damage and is on critical HP at this point. Grimes has been bullied this entire game and has had no luck. Andy moves forward, though, carefully stepping across the slime, and sees all of the Wicks, and realizes this is about to get bad. Speaking of about to get bad, it's Euclid's turn. And before Euclid can do anything, they need to roll damage. And she does. It's 68. The HP that everybody starts out in the game with is 40. Euclid is at 12. Euclid rolls a 16. And dies. No one is around to hear it, see it, or even know it happened, as the fight downstairs continues. It is now Wick's turn. Wick is met with Grimes, who is very, very low HP, and something that is beyond the hallway that he can't quite see right now. But Wick has a family, children even, and something about just hitting a kid till it dies is, He double thinks about it. He decides to make this a prep turn, realizing something might happen. Grimes may just go away, and someone else will take care of him. And he moves back beyond the hallway, gets himself prepared, buffs himself a little bit with a few moves, and waits. Grimes hoping that this act of kindness would be used to help him. Grimes, however, has had a passive this entire time, where if anyone is looking at him, both him and the person looking at him takes damage. This has also not helped Grimes at all in this fight, and it especially does not help now, for Grimes is at 3 HP and takes 4 damage, as him and Andy share eyes one last time, and then Grimes, out of just pure anxiety, falls to the ground and passes out, never to be heard from again. We are now down to the last 2 fighters. Andy Toulon, who has done not really anything They took down Nuclear, yes, and Wick has taken down everyone else, but we're down to the last two. Andy has also set up a teleporter. He does this turn and gets out of there. Back up to the second floor and decides to wait for Wick to show up. Wick comes back around, realizing Grimes is down and has a relatively soft idea of where Andy went and notices the teleporter. But Wick has only been on the bottom floor this entire game, has no idea what even the rest of the map looks like, and is afraid. Sends in a clone in there to test it out. Andy notices this and hides behind a box. Wick, however, can use his action on a clone to make it shoot for him, and acting as if it was the real Wick, and misses. This is important. Andy is at 7 HP. Andy will die if he is hit. Wick right now is at 12. Can be taken down, but would have to take a big hit. Andy sets up another teleporter next to him and waits for more clones to help out and hopes the real Wick will show his face. Wick comes back around and it's his turn again, sends out more clones and tries to fire, but Wick cannot see what his clones can see and misses again as the clones no longer have line of sight on Andy and decides to walk out, and in the field of clones that Wick has created, waits to look and see where Andy went. Now, and it is Andy's turn. Andy uses the teleporter to get into a flanking position behind the clones and decides to take a shot. Not only does Andy need to pick the correct Wick, but also deal enough damage to kill him in one shot. Andy picks the middle one and rolls to hit. Gets a 17. It hits the correct Wick and rolls damage. He deals 14 damage. As Wick, who is shot in the heart, falls to the ground and crawls his way over to Andy. So close Wick was to winning this, and he knew he was going to win, but he doesn't. He hands Andy a locket of his family, and within Andy's arms he dies, as Andy, scared and terrified of what has just happened, cries. Billy the Destroyer, however, takes the locket and eats it whole. As they move on to the top floor and notice a helicopter swooping around, letting them know they have won, as another elevator appears, letting them go deeper. And that concludes the first ever fight of BattleBeat at the wonderful takedown at mART. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a blast doing this with my friends, and I'm glad I'm able to share this really wild story with you all. We plan on recording some more things soon, and hopefully eventually being able to stream these live on Twitch. If y'all are interested in that, let us know. And that'll hopefully motivate us more to get this rolling, because it has been a wild time getting stuff like this prepared. So, one last time, thank you all so much for watching, and have a blessed day.